Whoa, look at that. Thanks. Okay. Thanks. Yes. All right. That's good. No, thanks. Erskine Music Show. We're back once again for another special episode. And yeah, you're going to I know I say that all the time, really enjoy this guest because I only bring to you guys nothing but the best guests. Okay. You see what I did there? Nothing but the best guests on this show. And 1 hour a day is all we ask. For those of you who are on Facebook Live, that audience is growing. Oh, man, you guys, I'm feeling the love. So the comment section is turned on, and you guys like to chop it up in there. So I just say the snarkier, the better. You have anything smart to say? I love it when you guys get on and make those kind of comments. This will probably be a pre-recorded show, and I will not maybe physically be present when this is airing, but I'll watch the comment section. If any of you guys are rude to my guest, I'm coming through the screen, and we're going to have to do it up here because that is absolutely a no-go. You can be mean to me. No mean to guests. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube audience, you guys, like the subscribers are just going up. And I don't even know if I can handle this. I may have to just cut the subscribers off at a certain number because can we break the internet? Is it even possible to break? I think we're about to break the internet. Subscribers are going up so much. I think I've gone up like 3 subscribers this season. So that's good. Hey, that's 3 more than we had before. And depending on how influential they are, that might be 3 more later on. So thank you guys so much for tuning in on YouTube. I appreciate the audience that's there. And for those of you who are on Twitch, look, I got my video game controller right here. Like I'm still doing the PS2. That doesn't really count, does it? But in the other room, I have an Xbox One. And I really don't have time to play games. And I really don't even know why I'm messing with you audience that's out there on Twitch. But hey, this is the Erskin Music Show, and we've got eclectic interests all centered around and related to the person of Jesus Christ. And so thank you guys for joining me 1 hour a day, and I'll do some mind control. So much animosity, so much chaos, and so much tension is going on in this world. I don't have my censorship button ready, but the Dolphins are here to confirm. I'm just trying to get everybody to chill the heck out. All right. Jesus is in control. God has got this, and it's going to be all right, people. It's going to be all right. So really quickly, introduction for those of you who have never seen the show before. We've got Big Head in the studio. What's up, Big Head? What's up, man? Woo, yeah. So Big Head's watching over the shoulder there, making sure I don't say any bad words, foul language, or any appropriate or racist jokes. Not that I normally do that, but all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Back in the corner over here, we got Ruby and Scooby, Scooby and Ruby, Scooby and Ruby, Ruby and Scooby. They are there, just kind of hanging out in the background, doing their Love Moves thing. That's the current album that I'm on. But by the time this airs, guess what? I'm going to have another album out probably, and it's called Just Dance. What's up, Miami Vice style? So we're doing that, and Just Dance is getting ready to come out, or will have already come out. And yeah, it's good in the Erskine music world ecosystem. So this is a talk and commentary show, life, art, and culture. But look, it's also a music show. So don't say I won't. What did they just Big Head? Did they just say that I would not play one of my songs? I will play my songs on this show. I am not ashamed. This is the Erskine Music Show. YouTube algorithms and Facebook algorithm try to cancel my own show. You can't do it. All right, so here's the deal. I got a special guest coming on here. It's Jessica Moore. She's coming from all the way on the other side of the world. So I'm going to save some of my silliness related to, well, I'll do one that's weird because it's Tennessee. I got to do one that's weird, and then you guys stop bugging me because we're getting to the guests pretty immediately here today. We're going to skip past some other things. We're flying past. We got stuff to do. Yes. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I'm a little weird. Did you guys know this? This is a fact. It's up there on the screen. Of course, I found this on the internet. Of course, it's true. Kingston. Do you guys know Kingston? Kingston was the state capital of Tennessee for one day. You say one day? Back in 1807, Kingston was named the state capital for one day. That's because the General Assembly met there in order to fulfill a treaty obligated with the Cherokee, made with the Cherokee, according to the state encyclopedia. So apparently they had some agreement with the Cherokee Indians. I'm not quite sure how that went, but probably they broke that agreement. All right, let's get into some other history on, oh yeah, I got to do my segment.
That's weird.
Okay, and my deadpan face after that. So we got a special guest coming on here. We got renowned guest that's here, and I'm not going to keep her waiting. It's so impolite to keep ladies waiting at the door. You should let them in at your earliest convenience, and we shall do that now as soon as we can get our headphones on. because I'm going into DJ mode. What is up here? Hip Hop Central. Let's go. We're not keeping her waiting any longer. It's Jessica Morris. Get on the show.
Hello.
Yes, we finally got you on the Erskin Music Show. I'm super excited.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I couldn't figure out if the That's Weird was for the random fact you shared or for me as a guest. Either way, it could work, so that's okay.
That's weird is for me chewing gum and trying to do an interview at the same time.
Nice. I'll remember that.
I think I've pretty much broken all journalistic rules.
I need to try it next time. Yeah.
Grab you some gum. Grab some crackers. I don't even know what you guys eat over there, but just grab something and just start eating it and be completely...
We actually have gum and crackers, surprisingly.
You have gum and crackers.
They are available on this side of the world.
I know. Here, I'm taking this out. I'm going to do the right thing. I hear all of my show accountability partners saying, come on, Erskin. Seriously, you're going to bring a special guest on like this? You're going to be chewing gum and messing your own show up. So no, I'm not. An honor to have you on here as a guest. First time a guest on the Erskin Music Show. But we are turning the tables today. I'm grinning like the Cheshire Cat because I am so excited to turn the table around. We're turning the chairs, and instead of you asking me questions, I'm asking you questions today. And I guess I should tell a little story.
It is so nerve-wracking.
Now you know how we feel. We're like, oh, what's she gonna say? It's gonna be an interview. People are gonna hear this. They're gonna laugh at me. But I'm used to that already. So yeah, I just kind of embraced that. I've embraced that. And this is totally in relationship to just me, but
That's weird.
Well played.
So here's what I got to do. I'm going to go ahead and give you an official bio introduction so that the audience knows who you are. I know who you are. A lot of people in this world know who you are, but let's just build the two of these worlds together. So like the Erskin Music audience who has never met you before, and a lot of people from maybe your audience that may be watching this who don't know me, and just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on here with the collaboration. But without further ado, Jessica is passionate, reading from your bio, about mental health advocacy, travel, discovering great music. Her phrase, stay, find what you were made for, and choose by some slogan, Suicide Prevention Day campaign, reach people in 20 countries. You'll tell us more about that. It was featured in the Associated Press, Teen Vogue, and Just Jared Jr. I've never seen it spelled like that before. She's an avid lover, and this is what I appreciate. She's an avid lover of ice cream. She also has a weird obsession with Christmas time and pug dogs, which she'll tell us probably more about that. Her memoir, When Hope Speaks, is available on Amazon.com right now. We got Jessica. That's her bio.
That's me.
Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. This is an honor for me because I don't normally get guests that come from all over the world. They're usually kind of located here in the United States. But where are you at?
So if you couldn't guess from my accent, I am in Australia. Some people think that I'm from the UK. Some people think I'm from New Zealand.
Ooh.
That's offensive? Okay, but I'm not.
Is that offensive if I was like straight from New Zealand to the Erskin Music Show? Would you be like, oh?
It's probably more offensive to New Zealanders.
Do they feel like they're superior?
No, but I think Australia thinks that we're superior most of the time, and New Zealand's just so nice.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of New Zealand. Yeah, but I'm an Australian. I have a weird hybrid accent that confuses most people because I've lived in the US on and off. Yep, it's bizarre. Yeah, so I live in a little city called Geelong, but essentially I live an hour from Melbourne or Melbourne, which is how Americans would say it.
Melbourne.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. You sound like Hermione from Harry Potter saying Melbourne. It's great. It's great. Yeah. So I live here. I'm grounded here at the moment due to COVID. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I've lived here most of my life. I have a great family here. I podcast from here. The dream is to get back to Nashville and live and work there.
Okay. So you have been in Nashville before.
Yes.
And so when you come back to Nashville, make sure you reach out. Now, let me connect the dots for the audience here. It's like, hey, what this strange conversation between Nashville and Melbourne. She does a podcast. It's called Between You and Me, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But I was interviewed by her on her show related to some songs that were up and coming, and Brian Smith of Turning Point PR and all those guys did a fantastic job of connecting the dots here. And it was one of those interviews which I remember I was at the recording studio and we were working on a project. It was the end of the day, and I was like, oh yeah, I have this interview, and you know, it was the end of the day. And so Jessica was just so enthusiastic and passionate about interviewing artists. We had such a fantastic time on the show. And I thought if I ever get to a place where I can control the technology well enough to be able to do a show without stopping, I'm going to get Jessica on the show, because she's just a fantastic human being. And as you heard from all the different levels of advocacy that she is there representing, just a wide variety of care and concern for humanity. And I'm pretty much can make this statement. I don't make the statement about everybody, Jessica, but I'll make the statement about you. If you don't like Jessica, then you probably just don't like people. And that's...
I am very enthusiastic. It's true. It really is true. I can't tamp that down. I'm sorry.
I don't want you to. I don't want you. I just want to unleash that. And so the couple of the
scary.
couple of the book is now you go. I'm gonna take myself off the show. It's your show now. Take it over. It's the Jessica Morris Show.
Oh, amazing.
No, so there's a couple of things that you are an advocate for. Excuse me. Tell us about some of those things that are just sort of kind of push that passion button in your life and cause you to be somebody that wakes up in the day and you're like, hey, I got to face this. I got to tackle this. I got to engage in this. And here I stay and I can do no other. Talk to me about those levels of concern.
I like the way you phrase that. Maybe it's a journalist in me that noticed that, but I like it. Because everything I do in my life is driven by passion or motivation. That's not to say I don't relax, but just I have such a reason to live. And that's probably where the first part of mental advocacy comes in. That's mental health. You could call me a mental health advocate if you wanted to. I write about it. I've spoken a bit about it. I mean, it's in my book, so I guess you could. For me, it's more about my lived experience. So I'm 31 now. When I was a teenager, so when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with really severe anxiety and depression, and was quite suicidal. But I was really fortunate in that my parents knew about counseling. They believed in counseling, and they knew how that married with faith.
Ooh, come on.
Yeah. So I was put into counseling really early on and have been on this mental health journey ever since, where I'm very different to who I was back 15 years ago. But that experience shaped me and still shaped how I see the world. I still live with anxiety. So that sort of is what threw me into going into mental health advocacy, if you call it that. I interned with a nonprofit in the US for a while. I helped to run a nonprofit here in Australia for a little while about mental health in the church. And any chance I get to write about it or interview people about it, I will leap and just go for it, because I know how important stories are.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. I think probably maybe the same, but it may be a little bit different where you're at. There's such a stigma related to, or in the past had been a stigma related to mental health. And especially I'm an athlete, and so played college basketball. That was kind of a cool experience. But I remember there was a guy on our team that would have to leave every once in a while, and he would come back with medication, and when he was not on his medication, there were some just incredible bizarre things that were going on there. And it was a mental health issue that he was dealing with, and it was just kind of one of those things where you just don't talk about it. Maybe that makes you seem like you're weak if you're going through that, or maybe there's a stigma that's associated with that, or maybe there's something's wrong with you. And I think we've come so far these days in helping people to understand that is not a weakness of ours. In fact, those that I know who have gone through counseling, and even myself desiring to go through some counseling, those are actually really the strong ones who are able to present to the world a better version of themselves, a a more complete version of themselves and an actual honest and authentic version of themselves as opposed to trying to hide or cover up something. Have you seen that be the case where you're at?
Oh, absolutely. Authenticity is something that I really value. And when I use the word authenticity, I know I need to be careful with that because it's nearly become a brand now. It's like on Instagram, it's like, this is my real life.
Yeah.
And it is, but it's not. And that's the awkward thing about authenticity now. But I think for me, what I've found is that when I meet people and we're in a safe enough space for us to share stories, that they share some of their story and maybe their pain with me, I feel like I can know them on a deeper level. And there's nearly a sense that the wider world can relate to them in some way. That's where my podcast comes in. If
Yeah.
people open up about their stories or their pain or their struggle, automatically it doesn't matter what differences there are in our backgrounds, we've all struggled. So we all can go, I see you, or I know someone like you. And
Ooh,
it's common grounds.
so good. So good, man. We could just spring off into so many topics, man, because I'm thinking about, the current cancel culture that we have and just sort of some of the ways that, that is sort of an unbending, unyielding kind of situation in which, you just said it. All of us have struggles. The Bible says it pretty clearly that all of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. There's not one righteous, not even one. And we find ourselves in a culture that the smallest transgression or the smallest thing that the culture
Yeah.
identifies, it says, well, that's not really what we do, or that's not really what we're currently in favor of. Then all of a sudden you find yourself in a place where people are leveling their angst towards you, and it's like, wait a minute. Maybe that
Yeah.
was you like a year ago. Like, how are you
Yeah.
any different than me? And like, we all have struggled in this, and nobody can say sorry and like actually be believed, or any of
Yeah.
those things that's going on there. So I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, or if I just need to keep moving on, because I get passionate when I hear people
Oh,
that just kind of push those buttons, and it's like, oh man, that
no,
speaks directly to our culture.
Oh, I like what you said, and for me, cancel culture is actually a real challenge for me as well, because I don't believe we should cancel people out, essentially cross them off the earth, not give them any chances, but we still need to keep people accountable. And so it's difficult in our social media age to know, well, who is responsible for that accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And is it the people in that person's life who are responsible for that? Is it their audience because they've legitimately shared their story or what they want us to perceive of their story? That's the really hard part. And so, like for me, I get really passionate when I see people in church culture. Um, well, when you hear stories or you and Christian music, you hear stories behind the scenes, you're like, that doesn't quite fit with what we believe, or
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
or, or like there's a big fallout with some pastor. And this happens every week, right? But I get really passionate about it because as someone who's been on the other side of church trauma, I know somewhat the pain or the fallout of that. So I don't necessarily take that person at face value when they say sorry. I say thank you. What are your accountability measures? And I'm really hopeful that the people in your life help you to put them in, because I'm clearly not in a spot in your life. Like I'm a random in the audience,
Sure,
but
sure.
but my
You're a
hope
rando.
is that, yeah. So my hope is that with our own individual communities, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're just like whoever you are, that we have our own communities of accountability where people can speak into our lives like they know we need it. Because that's the only way that we can actually get over cancer culture.
Yeah, yeah. There's just so much there. There's so much there. I don't want to have you on. What what time of the day is it? Or what day is it? Like, it's a
That's fair.
Monday here, a Monday evening here, but what is it there? Like Wednesday?
No, Tuesday.
It's
Tuesday at 9:25 a.m.
okay. So you're all the way in a different time zone, different day, different hour of the day, different time of the day. You just got everything going on over there.
Basically, Back to the Future.
Uh-huh. Man, it messes with my mind. I remember when I was over in India, I celebrated my birthday in the morning there, and then I got to England and celebrated in the afternoon, what to me would have been the afternoon, but because of the date, when I got to the United States, it was my birthday again. And so it was really kind of a
Nuts.
freaky kind of thing with time zones and kind of the spin of the globe. It can
Yeah.
be a science experiment for you too. So yeah, that's cool. Thank you so much for getting up this morning. I don't know that that's super early, but it kind of works as a good
No,
time for
what
both of us.
this is a good time for me. I early on when I started doing like journalism and interviewing people in the US, I was like, give me any time, I'll just do it. And it resulted in 2:30 a.m. phone calls. And it was
Ooh.
just now I try to do like really late evening, early morning. So all that to say, this is a really good time. Thank you for choosing it.
Yeah, yes. Here we go. The podcast between you and me. She's an author, editor, journal, social media influencer. I kind of added that last part. You said social media on your website, but I thought she's an influencer, whether she knows it or not, whether she wants to own it. You're an influencer. You're changing the minds and hearts of people all around this globe. So talk to me about between you and me, and then we'll kind of tell a little bit of our story in terms of how and why we know one another. I think we told a little bit of it, but let's get that, and then we'll talk about some issues of faith.
Great. So between you and me is my podcast, as we stated. I started it about 3 years ago, and every episode I interview a musician in the Christian music industry, or a musician with some sort of Christian faith or backgrounds, and talk to them about the things that hurt, heal, and change us in evangelical
Mm,
culture. Yeah. Um,
mm.
so I'm a journalist. I interview them as a journalist, which makes it just a little bit different from other podcasts at the moment because everyone has a podcast at the moment. Fully aware of that. So
Now,
I
how is
try
this one
to
different than all the rest of them that are out there?
yours or mine because yours has you and mine has me, and that's clearly the difference
Ooh,
maker here.
ooh, man, it's blowing out your speakers. Did you hear this girl? She said, "You know what makes it unique is that I'm on it." Mm.
I'm trying. That's I once did a marketing course, and that's what it said to me. So I'm trying to own it. Really
Yeah,
own
hey,
it.
that's funny because I've been mentoring some artists. There's some new artists that are kind of up and coming, and they're kind of breaking into that world where they're doing music full time. And so I've kind of been mentoring them. And one of the things that I think is most important is to kind of mentor their mentality about what they're doing. And I've got some feedback that's like, there's so many artists that are out there, and there's so much music. How do I stand out in a crowd, and how am I different than else that's out there? And I just want to tell people there's only one you.
Yeah.
Like, think about that in the history of the world. There's only one you that has ever existed in this time, in this space. And so you have this opportunity to go and do it.
Yeah,
And I know that's a little overly simplistic,
but I
but
get
it's
it.
right. But
It's
it's
true.
right. It's the truth.
I get it.
It's the truth. So anyway, yeah, between you and me, your podcast, now you just crossed like 157 episodes or something on this show. Like you had some major milestones on this show, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you. So we just hit episode 104. There's been extras along the way that I haven't counted, but we're about 104.
the ones that
Um,
failed, we didn't count those.
yeah,
Erskin's
it's like, well, I
interview.
tried. No, it's been great. So I started it because I lived in Nashville, like I said, and I was at a massive Christian music event for Easter Sunday, and I saw these amazing Christian artists singing about Jesus' death and resurrection. It's like this is the pinnacle in the Christian faith, right? We're here, we're worshiping Jesus. Like, look what he did for us. And I saw these people eating popcorn, and I got told off for dancing in the stands, and I was so disillusioned and cynical. I was like,
Whoa,
what
whoa,
is
whoa,
this
whoa, whoa.
place? What is
Rewind
this
that. Hold up a
city?
second.
What
Hold
is
up a
this
second.
country?
Hold
I
on.
was so annoyed.
Wait.
And still in that service, I just had a sense of God saying to me that I was judging these people so hard.
Well, no, no,
And I
hang
had
on a
this
second.
sense of,
I still, I gotta catch up with you, Jessica. Like
sorry, I'm
you got
fast.
rebuked for dancing in the stands.
I know. I know. Apparently it's a safety thing at Bridgestone Arena. No.
Oh, were you like swinging on the rails?
No. Just dancing in circles. I don't dance too wildly, but just praise
She was
dancing.
dancing a jig here. Ooh,
Basically, I do
okay,
church dancing. It's not cool.
okay. And so you got rebuked by the ushers that were there, or the
Yes, they
actual
were
band
just
that was.
doing their job. To be
Oh,
clear,
okay, okay, okay. I was about to, you know how justice is with the black people these days. Like I was about to spring to your defense.
thank you.
We're looking for a justice cause these days.
We'll come up with one. Don't you worry.
Before the end of the show, we'll have another justice cause. And I say that partly because it is I'm a little silly on this show. It's my own show, so I can do that, but partly because I do think there is sort of an atmosphere, there's a certain angst there's a cultural zeitgeist, if you will, that is people out there looking for a cause that they can associate themselves with so that they can fly the flag of justice. And some of that is long overdue, and some of that is a little nonsensical. But continue, please. I interrupted your story.
No, that's okay. When I get excited, as you know, I speak very fast, and you have to just slide in. I know. Sorry, folks.
I
I'm
know.
learning this part of answering questions.
Can you just say authenticity about 4 times for me? It just soothes my soul. Something's right about the way you say it.
authenticity, 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 authenticity.
That was just right. The way you say authenticity is just right.
I'm glad, because that hurt my head. All that to say, I was at a major Christian event. I was judging everybody there, me being in the audience. And I just had this really strong sense that God said to me, you are one of these people. You are literally a part of this church. And if you're judging them, you're becoming the very thing that you are saying that you hate or dislike or disrespect. And that was hard to hear, but I knew it was true. And I came home from that trip in America, knowing that I still wanted to be part of music journalism and feeling like God wanted me to do some sort of work in Christian music, even though I really didn't want to. So I decided that the best way.
Hang on. Time out. I'm gonna have to interrupt your story. Like, you didn't want to do it, but you knew you were supposed to do it. Most of the time when people don't want to do something, we live in the land of the free, the home of the brave. Like, we're free enough and brave enough to say, hey, I don't want to do it. I ain't doing it. Whether on any issue, and I could bring up a lot of different issues, but if we don't want to do it, it's like, well, this is the land of the jackass. Like, like, we ain't doing it. We ain't moving if we don't feel like we need to do it. And so I use that as a term of donkey, not as individuals. Yeah. So anyway, because you got to say that these days. People be trying to, they'll be in the comment section trying to say, well, you shouldn't say that and talk about people. No, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about our mentality. Like, we are freedom loving people who, like, if we get pushed in a certain direction or feel like there's any type of intimidation towards something that we're not wanting to do, we're going to plant our feet. We're going to plant our flag and be like, we're not doing that. So how do you overcome this sense of, I don't want to do this stuff in the music industry, but God is telling me to do it? How does that work?
That's a good question.
Because I didn't want to come to Nashville. Look, I said it. I said it, people. What?
I get it. Yeah. I think so. There's one part of it where I work basically as a Christian music journalist. Basically, you could say I do that. There's a part of it where I didn't want to, but it came naturally to me. So it wasn't a hard leap in the sense that I've grown up in the church. I know Christian music. I know a lot of the lingo. When I went to Nashville, it was incredible how many, like, I developed so many amazing relationships that were organic and authentic. But through that, naturally, that weaved into Christian music. So a lot of the steps and the stepping stones were already there. I feel like God really just placed that together. The part that I had to overcome was my stigma against the Christian music industry. I didn't think that I could be a credible journalist if I worked in Christian music. And I'd grown up thinking my job as a Christian, there's a lot wrong with that, but my job as a Christian is to save the world. That's the mentality I grew up with when I was a teenager at these salvation conferences. So I was like, if I'm a journalist, I need to save the world, and I need to, like, send that out to people who don't know Jesus.
Time out. I forgot to say this, but we're having such a wonderful conversation. The comment section is turned on. So if you guys could show Jessica some love all the way from all around the world. Our YouTube audience is more international than the Facebook audience. But for those of you who are watching internationally and also watching on Facebook Live, if you guys could just show Jessica some love. I want to see some, balloons or whatever it is that you guys are doing up there. But I'm from Texas, and our, I guess, divine right and the reason why God created Texas was to save the United States and by virtue of that, the rest of the world. And so I'm confused when you say that what is your mission is not to save the world. Come on, let's go.
My mission?
Speaking like a Texan.
Okay. Stepping outside of America here, because Americans have Christianity mission and America looks very different when you don't live in America.
That's
So I still
differentially true.
believe that as followers of Jesus, we have a call. Like that's what Jesus gave us when he rose, ascended into the clouds. He called us to tell people about him, to baptize, to have souls
Great commission.
saved, right? Yeah, thank you. That would be the correct terminology. Thank you. But
We done read a couple of books.
Yes.
You're in the library. I'm doing the show in my study.
No, and
we heard of this thing called the Great Commission. Is it true? Sorry.
Yes, it's true. But for me, that's less about protecting the rights of the freedom of the country. It's more about God's kingdom and that whoever I meet experiences Jesus through me. And people have different roles in that. But like in Australia, one of the ways that we could bring God's kingdom to earth is by bringing justice and reconciliation with our First Peoples. Because when we were colonized, a lot of them were killed. And so like if you want to talk about it from a nationalistic point of view, then every country has their own mission in how they can bring God's kingdom to earth. And when we come together as God's people from across the world, then there's a even bigger, well, not a bigger divine mission, but there's a divine mission where we come together and we embrace our differences and our cultures, and we enact justice and we enact reconciliation and make amends and repent. That's where our mission is. We are called to be active participants in that and to choose to follow that.
Yeah. So connect the dots for me, if you will, because I hear what you're saying, and I know I had to stalk you a little bit just to kind of know what things you're into. I don't want it to be creepy or anything like that. It's like I've been reading your media and looking at your pictures. No, it's nothing like that, but just, for the purpose of getting to know you well enough so that we could do an interview. Connect the dots for me, because like you said, you've gone to a lot of salvation conferences. There'll be some people who are watching this, I know, in our context, who would say, well, if you get involved in all that justice stuff and you get involved, that's going to take you off mission, because the mission is actually the gospel, and the gospel is actually, the message of salvation that changes. And unless you have a soul that is ultimately changed, then you don't even know where the bar of justice begins or ends. And so there'd be some people there'd be some people who would maybe ask some questions about that. So if you could clarify that really quickly, just to say that if our cultural mission is bound up in justice, in which I believe that, and to a large degree, the creation mandate also is connected with that, then how do we do that without losing the actual gospel that transforms people's lives and changes them for eternity? Go.
That's good. No, that's good. Okay, so to answer that, I need to start with the fact that I grew up in a church called the Salvation Army.
Okay.
Not the thrift store.
The booth.
And not necessarily the outreach organization, the actual church.
Yes.
So my parents were ministers in that. And growing up in the Salvation Army, we call it the Salvos in Australia. The gospel and salvation partners with the acts of justice. The idea was that you can't save a man's soul if you're not also feeding him a bowl of soup.
Okay.
If he's hungry.
In that denominational context, that matters to hear that.
Yeah. And so I grew up with this paradigm where faith, the gospel, and mission were always together. So for me, when I think justice and the gospel, I don't see them as separate. And I think if we're separating them, there's a problem, because I think like you can have something, an organization about justice that does great work, but that's not necessarily, they can be doing the work of God, but that's not necessarily a Christian organization. You can also have a church that's talking about great stuff and preaching great stuff, but is not doing the work of the gospel in the sense of helping people.
I hear you.
So they both have a place. And so I believe as Christians that we need to bring both together.
Yeah.
Now, we don't get that done perfectly, but I can't, like, if I walk past someone on the street and say, God bless you, or I prayed for you today, and they're starving, then, like, they're not meeting Jesus. They're meeting someone who goes to a church who probably looks really well off, who doesn't really care about them. That's what they're perceiving. So it's not easy. I don't get it right by any means. And I say this from a huge place of, and I would use the word privilege in Australia, but like I'm quite well off in Australia. So it's easy enough for me to say this, but I know people, and through my journalism, I've met people enough to know that what I have is not the case that everyone else has it. So it's my responsibility as a child of God to meet them in that, just like Jesus would.
Yeah. So I'm going to annoy you for just a second, but this will only be just a second. But, you know, from that context and that background, I think that's important. People watching the show could hear that background and know that you you're not separating, as it were, this whole idea of faith and works. You're drawing the two of those things together. I was raised Southern Baptist. So anyway, Southern Baptist historically were a denomination that was formed out of the desire to, you know, side with slavery and slave owners, and to kind of keep that economy going. It was a rise of churches and various things. And in the South, we've had many number of problems historically going back in the past of access, denial of, you know, institutions, churches, and the Southern Baptists have done a good job of addressing that issue and continue to speak toward those issues. And yet there's a lot of people who say, well, no, the message gets tarnished when you introduce works into it. And I think they want to pit Paul, the Apostle Paul, who is justification by faith alone, against James, who is eager to say that faith without works is dead. And it's important in this discussion that we recognize that you're not saying that the gospel is not the gospel, that the message of one's ultimate need for salvation, one's wrong standing with God, who is a righteous judge, who judges, as it were, his son on the cross, and he dies the penalty that they should have died, predicating that their response to him could either be, "No, I'm good," or a repentance, a total denial of themselves and a denial of their sin, and trust in the provision of Jesus Christ. You're not invalidating that or the resurrection or anything else. You're just saying that, hey, faith without works is dead. Like, let's read James also, and let's put that into motion, because somebody comes into your assembly and you tell them, hey, you know, you go over there, be warm, be filled, and you don't do anything to alleviate the suffering that's going on there. What kind of religion is that? And James would also be willing to say, you know, we've talked about it in one context, but pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Like, if we just did that, we would be a lot better off in terms of our authenticity. I love the way you say authenticity. Can you say it again?
Authenticity.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. I got to get sound bite to that.
That's really good. I really like what you said, because this, for me, like serving mission, it's not dependent on our salvation, as in the sense like, well, we know that if you call in the name of Jesus and believe in your heart, you are saved. That's salvation, but an outworking of that for me is showing love to others. That's sharing the gospel, and it's also helping and supporting and empowering and building and things like that. So for me, they go together.
I don't know this to be the case, and I'm just thinking out loud here. But, you know, I've gone around and I've done some recent revivals, and, you know, Erskin music is doing really well these days in terms of being able to interface with a lot of different audiences, younger audiences that are, you know, the message of salvation goes out and they're coming to faith in Christ. And I don't know that this is the case, but I would wonder. I leave some of those evangelistic crusades and I say, there's one word that helps define what the reality of this week or these weeks have been, and that is the word baptism. Baptism does not save you. Sorry, Church of Christ. That is a work of grace that God does that then leads to obedience. And then baptism is the outward symbol of the inward change that takes place in a person's life. And in scripture, they're not necessarily disconnected from the standpoint of saying one has put their faith in Christ. The most natural thing now is to go and be baptized as a result of living out your faith. And so you move from justification to sanctification very quickly. What we've done in our context, and I'm just thinking out loud here, what we've done oftentimes in our context, we've said, okay, now that you're saved, the justification part is taken care of. Let's think about this. Let's give it some time to see if it really did take effect. And then ultimately, when you get around to it, if you feel like it, maybe you should practically, maybe possibly be baptized. And we have this period of time that is between justification and sanctification. Whereas in scripture, I don't read it like that. And I don't think it actually works that way. Like, you show me somebody that's really been changed, as 2 Corinthians talks about, if anyone's in Christ, he's a new creation, the old has passed away, the new has come. So show me someone who's really been changed, who just wants to just go back to what they were doing before. That's not a thing. The Holy Spirit will convict you if you were in sin before, and will convince you of the righteousness of Christ, and you'll desire to love Jesus, and you'll look for opportunities to serve. And if you know that you're supposed to be obedient in baptism, then salvation, baptism, works, they all flow. I could be wrong, but
absolutely. I like that thought train. Good work.
So tell me something good. What's coming up in your world? I know you've got a book out. You've got some other things that you're probably working on.
Yes. So what's going on in my
this is that
world?
moment where you get a chance to like project into the future and tell us more
this
about.
Is so hard. This is so
I'm giving you permission. It's the runway. Look,
yeah.
I'm kicking myself off my own show. Goodbye, Erskin. It's just
Oh, hi everybody, it's Jess here. So things I'm working on right now. The latest episode of the Between You and Me podcast is with a wonderful singer-songwriter from Washington called Beth Whitney, and she talks a lot about grief. And she was just phenomenal. I also have an episode that's recently come out with Tasha Layton. Tasha was named one of the top 5 Christian singers on Billboard last year. And
I love Tasha, by the way. She's awesome.
She's amazing, right?
I was with her. Yeah, I was with her at TBN, and we sat next to each other. I didn't even know who she was, like, because I don't really listen to Christian music that much. But so we were just sitting there. We were cutting up. We were having such a great time, and like, oh, we should sing a song. And like, so we started singing "Lean on Me," and I was like, oh, she's an artist. Like, I kind of knew that, but I'd never listened to her music before. Then I started hearing it, and I was like, she's amazing. Anyway, keep going.
No, yes. Anyway, Tasha Layton is amazing. So you can listen to that's episode 103 and 104 on the Between You and Me podcast. You can find them on all podcasting platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and such. Just search Between You and Me podcast, or go to our website at betweenyouandmepod.com. We also recently had episode 100, an interview with the guy from Preachers and Sneakers, which was so fun. And I highly recommend that. Yeah, I know. He answered the question, what sneakers would Jesus wear? And I think that's the pinnacle of my journalism career.
I'm working. We hustling every day. Hustling, Ricky Ross. All right.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So that's probably the major stuff in my world at the moment. Apart from that, if there are any magazines or journals or anything in America who would like to hire me or sponsor me, I'm putting myself out there. I would love that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a need. Come on. Hey, you're off the show. Hang on a second. You just hang tight real quick. I'm gonna do a little promo for you. All right, people. I don't know what journalistic credentials you're looking for, but if this show is not evidence of the fact that Jessica is one of the most amazing journalists in the history of journalism, I don't know what is. She's kind, she's compassionate, she's very skilled at her job. She's an author, she's a speaker. Any company that she represents, any group that she represents, anybody that she writes for, edits for, does anything for, you're only going to be blessed as a result of having her own. Now, I can't say all that in front of her ears because she gets the big head and everything. Then she won't be as humble as she is now. So we're just trying to keep her in her spot. And here she comes back.
That was amazing. Thank you. Can I get I'm going to just type that out as a written recommendation on my resume. Thanks.
Tell them Erskin said this. And they'll say,
I will. Thank you.
Ooh. Erskin, some unpronounceable last name. And it was that name.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so the goal is hopefully when it is safe enough to travel back to the States, I would love to find a job there.
You got the bang bang? I saw that on your Facebook. You got the bang bang?
Oh, you mean talking about the vaccinations?
Oh, you can't say that on there. We got flagged. Okay. Okay. Hey, how about that?
Sorry, apologies, everybody.
Okay, yeah. Okay. No, it's okay. I don't know.
The plan is to travel back to Nashville when I can. Our international borders aren't actually open yet in Australia. That's what I mean.
Okay.
So they will open up soon. And when it's safe enough for me to go, I'd love to go back, visit some friends. There's a friend's wedding that I missed. I really want to see her reenact that 2 years later. And then see if any job opportunities open up.
Hey, let's see if we can have lunch with Tasha Layton.
Yes, I would love that.
How about that? Yes. I might have an in just because we actually kind of know one another.
Please
I might have an in. So let's see what
make
we
it
do there. I need to get Tasha on the show.
Because I know Turning Point Media. just like you. I know, and they are awesome. And when they get a bunch of new artists, they send me ideas and say, "Would you like to interview this person?" And I say, "Heck yes, I would like to interview this person." It's amazing. That's
Have
how
you
I
ever-
interview. That's how I got you on my
I
show.
was going to say, well, that I'm honored by that. We had a fantastic time together then and now. Have you ever, low-key, like ever been like, nah, not that artist. I'm good.
Yes.
Oh,
have.
okay, because that makes it more special. If you're like, hey, there's a new artist Brian recommended, okay, so I'll just take him. That's not as
have.
special as you having just a small shred of, you know, a regiment there in which you can kind of say,
Yeah, I try. So you know how you talked about not like uncreepily stalking me on social media to do like research.
Yeah.
I do that with nearly all the artists that I interview, and
Okay.
that helps me to figure out what if I want to talk to them and what we talk about, because it has to be life giving, basically. So yes, you passed the test. Congratulations.
Oh, yay! Here we go. Yes, and you passed the test as well in this interview. I can only hope there will be hundreds more of these interviews in your future, and you will come back and be a guest on the Erskin Music Show.
Anytime.
You got to do it.
I'm just over here in Australia, sitting at a desk, podcasting. I'm fine. Ask anytime.
Anytime I can get an interruption in my schedule to get on some rando show, I will do that.
That's good. Thank you so much for having me. It has been such a privilege and so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. Your check is going to be in the mail. I'm just kidding with your
I'm like, sure, why not?
I'll send that address in the chat section there. So you guys showed Jessica a lot of love there. Get on her media, check her out. And if you're out there and you're looking for talent, I'll just say it like that. Talent.
That's me.
Are you not entertained by this young lady? She's amazing. She's doing great things.
I try so hard.
She's doing great things all around the world and an advocate for so many important things, and has tied the knot, the link between faith and works. And she's keeping that clear, and she's doing a fantastic job. So keep it up, Jessica. Look forward to talking to you soon. And hopefully when restrictions are lifted, seeing you soon.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on. Thank you, everybody, for accepting me.
God bless. We love you. We love you. Goodbye. Goodbye.
See you later.
Oh. That was Jessica Morris in the flesh. So don't let the fact that there's continents between us and there's a little bit of water between us and some time zones between us stop you from engaging with Jessica Morris. And that was the kind of perspective that I had. I was like, hey, you know what? I don't even know what time it's going to be, but we will get on and do whatever we need to do to pre-record a show so that we can both have the benefit of enjoying the life that God has given us, the resident talents that God has given us to be able to just get behind the microphone and interview and ask questions and, just put ourselves out there. We're a little silly on this show, but we're also a little serious on this show. And so if any of that serves you or serves your church, serves your body well, then let that be an encouragement. This is the Erskin Music Show. If you want to check out more, because I get people who are now inquiring me and just saying, hey, is there stuff where I can find what you're doing, find your schedule, find information about you. We'd like to book you for an event. We'd like to book your band for an event. All of that is there. For what is not there, it's not there on purpose because I want you to actually get in contact with me. And so all the social media is there. This is the Erskin Music Show, which is the way that I met and the reason why I met Jessica. And because of that, we're going to play some music. We're going to play a short little Yoda video of the video Only Love, talk about our subscribers, and then we're going to get a little blurb from Nehemiah Fest. So we got extravaganza. So don't tune out. Stay with me. We're at 49 minutes, and I know I promised you an hour, but we'll get out a little early today. Class is going to end a little early today, but don't tune out on me just yet before you see Baby Yoda. Love's gonna work. Oh, look at Baby Yoda jamming to that Only Love. I think they took that scene out of The Mandalorian, though. I don't know if anybody saw that, but I was in The Mandalorian, so my claim to fame there. Yoda was playing my music. All right, so that was a great little add-on feature that DistroKid uses, and we use them for our distribution. Fantastic job. Glad to have them on the team. All right, here's for the subs. Let's pump up the subs today. If you are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, please enable your notifications so that the subscribers can go up and you can be a part of the train that is moving forward into the future. Almost got that timed out perfectly. All right, so before we end out the Erskin Music Show, I want you guys to see some of the live music stuff. My band and I have been traveling and doing shows. This is the one from Kansas City that we did a few weeks ago at Nehemiah Fest, a wonderful Christian conference. No, festival. There's a difference. Up in Kansas City, the Smithville area. And they do a tremendous job. David Lynn, shout out to those guys. And this is a little bit of the footage of us on stage just rocking your faces off. And if you'd like us to come and do that, we will, we can, we should. All right. We were rocking it. So fun. So fun. Hang on one second. I'm doing a lot of different things in the background. I'm going to close out the show for the Erskin Music Show. And thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's do this again. I do the show on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I don't know when this actual show is going to air, but whenever it does, I'll promo it and give you guys an opportunity to get on board before we actually air it. I'm going to be on location next week for those of you. Well, I don't guess it'll be next week. So I don't know when it is, but there's going to be a show that I'm going to be doing with the FCA leader in the region where I'm going to be touring, Steve McCauley, and you will not want to miss that interview. So if you're on that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday schedule with me, look for the one that says Steve McCauley. He is a classic. I think he's the dad joke expert in the world. Like he's a comedian, FCA leader. He's bold, representing Christ and sharing Christ. And we're going to do a lot of encouraging things, and you'll get a chance to hear about it on the Erskin Music Show. So stick with us. It is the Erskin Music Show and the Texas flag.